Have you ever looked at someone who's clearly wealthy and thought, how are they playing this game so differently? Not just earning more, but moving through money like the rules don't apply the same way. Because for a lot of Americans, money feels like something you have to constantly manage, protect, and stretch. You budget it. You worry about it. You try not to lose it. And even when you do everything right, it can still feel like you're just maintaining your position, not really getting ahead. But then you see people who seem to operate on a completely different level. They take risks that would make most people uncomfortable. They make decisions that don't look logical on the surface. And somehow, over time, they end up further ahead. Not just financially, but in how much freedom they seem to have. And that's where the quiet question starts forming. Is it just about having more money? Or is it about thinking about money differently? Because the uncomfortable truth is, wealth isn't just a number. It's a lens. And once that lens changes, the decisions that follow start to look very different from the outside. Most people are taught to think about money in terms of scarcity. You earn it. You spend it. You try to save what's left. The goal is stability. Avoid mistakes. Don't lose what you have. It's a defensive mindset. And for good reason. It's built around protecting yourself in a system that can feel unpredictable. But people who build significant wealth tend to shift out of that frame much earlier than most. They stop asking, how do I hold on to this? And start asking, how do I make this grow? And that sounds simple. Almost obvious. But the implications of that shift are massive. Because when your primary goal is preservation, your decisions become smaller, safer. You hesitate more. You avoid uncertainty. And over time, that limits how much upside you ever experience. But when your focus shifts to growth, something else happens. You start to see money not as something to keep, but as something to deploy. That word matters more than it seems. Deploying money means giving it a job. It means putting it into assets, opportunities, or systems that can produce more value over time. And once you start thinking this way, saving alone stops feeling like progress. It feels like paused potential. This is why you'll often see wealthy individuals holding what looks like surprisingly little cash compared to their net worth. From the outside, that can seem reckless. But from their perspective, idle money is underperforming. And this is one of the first places where the system starts to feel unfair. Because if you're living paycheck to paycheck, or even just trying to build a modest safety net, the idea of deploying money feels like a luxury. Risk isn't theoretical, it's personal. A wrong move doesn't just set you back. It affects your stability. So you're incentivized to play it safe. But here's the paradox. Playing it safe often keeps you in the exact position you're trying to escape. Now, that doesn't mean taking reckless risks is the answer. In fact, one of the biggest misconceptions about wealthy people is that they're constantly gambling. They're not. What they're actually doing is managing risk differently. They're not asking, is this risky? They're asking, is this risk controlled? And is the upside worth it? That's a very different question. Because once you start evaluating opportunities that way, you realize that not all risks are equal. Some are blind bets. Others are calculated moves with asymmetric outcomes, where the potential gain significantly outweighs the potential loss. And this is where another shift happens. Instead of avoiding risk entirely, wealthy individuals tend to concentrate it in specific, intentional areas, while keeping the rest of their financial life relatively stable. They're not taking risks everywhere. They're taking them where it counts. And over time, those concentrated bets, whether in businesses, investments, or career moves, are what create disproportionate results. But here's where it gets even more interesting. It's not just about how they invest money. It's about how they think about income itself. Most people are taught to focus on earning more, get a raise, work more hours, climb the ladder. And while that absolutely matters, it's still tied to a fundamental constraint: your time. There are only so many hours you can work. So even if your income increases, it's still directly connected to your effort. Wealthy individuals, on the other hand, tend to prioritize something else much earlier. Ownership. Ownership of assets. Ownership of businesses. Ownership of systems that can generate income without requiring their constant presence. Because once income is no longer tied strictly to time, the ceiling changes. This is why two people can earn the same salary for years, and end up in completely different financial positions. One saves diligently, maybe invests conservatively, and builds slowly. The other uses that income as a tool to acquire or build something that scales. And over time, the gap between them widens in ways that feel almost invisible at first, and then suddenly very obvious. And this is another place where the system starts to feel unfair, because access to ownership opportunities isn't always evenly distributed. Some people are exposed to it early through family, environment, or education. Others have to discover it much later, often after years of operating under a completely different set of assumptions. So it's not just about effort. It's about exposure. But even beyond investing and ownership, there's another layer to how wealthy people think about money that's rarely talked about. And it has nothing to do with numbers. It has to do with time. Because once you reach a certain level of financial stability, money and time start to become interchangeable in a very specific way. You can spend money to save time. You can delegate, outsource, automate. And that creates a compounding effect that most people underestimate. If you free up your time, you can focus on higher value decisions. You can think more strategically. You can pursue opportunities that wouldn't be possible if your time was fully consumed by maintenance and routine. But if you're constantly trading time for money, that loop becomes harder to break. And this is where the gap quietly widens again, not because one group is working harder, but because they're working in fundamentally different ways. Now, at this point, it might start to feel like all of this is just confirming what people already suspect, that the system is tilted, that some people are playing with advantages that others don't have. And to some extent, that's true. But that's not the full picture. Because what's often missing from this conversation is how much of this comes down to learned behavior patterns of thinking that can be adopted, even if your starting point is different. And that's what we're going to break down next. Because here's the part that usually gets overlooked. If wealth were only about starting position, the story would end there. Some people would be born into advantage, others wouldn't, and nothing would really change. But that's not how financial outcomes actually behave over time. What separates outcomes isn't just where people start. It's what they repeatedly do with what they have. And that's where learned behavior becomes the real dividing line. Because most people don't realize this. But your money mindset isn't something you consciously choose once. It's something you absorb over years, through family conversations, early financial experiences, and even the environments you're exposed to without noticing. If you grew up around scarcity, money often feels fragile, like it can disappear quickly. So the natural instinct becomes protection. Hold on to it, avoid mistakes, don't take unnecessary chances. But if you grew up around abundance, or even just around people who treated money as a tool, you're more likely to see it as something that moves, something that can be redirected, multiplied, and rebuilt if needed. And neither of those instincts is wrong. They're just different operating systems. But here's where things start to shift. Because wealthy thinking isn't just about confidence or optimism. It's about feedback loops. Small decisions repeated over time create entirely different trajectories. One person sees an opportunity and thinks, what if I lose money? So they hesitate. Another person sees the same opportunity and thinks, what would I learn if this works, or even if it doesn't? So they engage differently. And over enough repetitions, that difference compounds. Not dramatically at first. In fact, for years, it can look almost identical from the outside. Two people working, saving, living their lives. No obvious gap. But underneath that surface, one person is gradually increasing exposure to growth through investments, skills, relationships, or ownership, while the other is primarily focused on reducing risk. And eventually, those paths diverge. Not because one person suddenly figured it out, but because the system rewards accumulation of certain behaviors over time. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable again. Because even when people understand this intellectually, applying it is a different story. It's easy to say, take more calculated risks. It's much harder when the consequences of a mistake are immediate and personal. Rent, bills, family responsibilities, these are not abstract variables. So the real gap isn't just knowledge. It's capacity. Capacity for risk. Capacity for patience. Capacity for delayed reward. And that's why advice like just invest or just start a business often misses the reality most people are living in. Timing matters. Stability matters. Margin for error matters. And this is important, even within constraints, behavior still exists. Because not all wealth building requires high risk. Some of it is simply about reallocation. Reallocating attention from consumption to skill building. From short-term spending to long-term positioning. From passive earning to active ownership over time. And that's where things begin to change quietly. Another key difference is how wealthy individuals think about mistakes. For most people, a financial mistake feels like something to avoid at all costs. Something that sets you back. But in higher level thinking, mistakes are often treated as data. Not ideal, not desirable, but informative. Because if you're operating in environments where growth is possible, then uncertainty is part of the process. And avoiding all uncertainty also avoids most upside. So the goal shifts from never make mistakes to make mistakes that don't destroy you, but teach you something valuable. That distinction alone changes behavior dramatically. It creates room for experimentation. And experimentation over time is one of the quiet engines of wealth creation. But there's another layer here that's even less obvious. Because wealth isn't just built through money decisions, it's built through leverage. And leverage comes in multiple forms. Money is one. Time is another. But so is other people's skills, systems, and technology. Most people only experience leverage indirectly, if at all. They exchange their time for money directly. 1 hour equals 1 unit of income. But wealthy systems are structured differently. 1 hour of input can influence many hours of output through teams, investments, or scalable systems. And once you see that clearly, it becomes obvious why certain paths accelerate faster than others. Not because the individuals are necessarily working more hours, but because their hours are multiplied. Now, at this point, it might still feel like the conclusion is obvious. Well, they just had access to better opportunities. And yes, that is part of it. But there's a subtle trap in thinking that access is the only factor. Because access without perspective doesn't always change outcomes. 2 people can be given the same opportunity, and only one of them recognizes what it actually is. Not because one is smarter, but because one is already thinking in a framework where that opportunity makes sense. And that's where exposure becomes so powerful. Because exposure changes what you notice. It changes what feels normal. And what feels normal determines what feels possible. So when people say, rich people think differently, it's not just a catchy phrase. It's describing a very real difference in mental defaults. But here's the final piece that ties everything together. Even though the system is uneven, and even though starting points matter, financial outcomes are still shaped heavily by direction over time. Not just speed. If 2 people move in slightly different directions for long enough, the gap becomes massive, even if they started in similar places. And that means the most important question isn't, where am I right now compared to others? It's, what direction am I consistently moving in? Because direction compounds. And unlike starting point, direction is something that can change. Quietly. Gradually. Without dramatic moments. And that's the part that most people underestimate. Not because it's complicated, but because it doesn't feel dramatic while it's happening. Until one day it is.